Hey y'all, I'm Brooke Hoover, a Louisiana native, actor, writer, and comedian. I've lost 100 pounds through diet and exercise, or shall I say, lifestyle changes. My 20-year and counting health journey has taught me that just like taking a diet pill for weight loss, body positivity doesn't magically happen overnight. I'm working on regaining my self-esteem and rekindling my love affair with Cajun and Southern comfort food in a healthier way, all the while juggling eating as clean as I can, reestablishing myself in the entertainment industry, which, as we know, is historically fat-phobic, all the while showing my inner fat girl some love. That's fat with a PH. Pretty hot and tempting. Let me tell y'all a tale or two. Y'all, while I'm writing this episode, which I'm calling Power Over Willpower, I'm listening to that song by Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, Lady Willpower. Do y'all know that song? Lady Willpower, it's now or never. Give your love to me and I'll shower. Oh God, okay. Sorry for that, guys, but y'all know that song? I never knew that song was called Lady Willpower. I just thought it was called Willpower, and that Gary Puckett and the Union Gap were paying homage to the mystical being that is willpower. Y'all, I've been told by some people, especially when they find out that I've lost 100 pounds, they say, oh my gosh, you must have so much willpower. And when peeps say that, it's like the person who they deem that has the willpower has power, essentially. And not having willpower is a loss of power. Like there's shame if you do not have willpower. Y'all, I don't know that I really have willpower, and oftentimes I don't really even feel like I have power. Both of those things ebb and flow, and I feel that power is something you can generate every day, be it mental or physical strength training, affirmations, looking yourself in the mirror and saying, I am here and I am surviving. That is power. You can generate it when you feel like you've lost it, but willpower, I argue, isn't always something that's under our control. Willpower is usually something we put a negative spin on, whereas just power is a more positive entity, right? Like, let's think about that. Willpower is something I think that's not necessarily always in our hands or under our control. It's often tempted and triggered by foods, chemical substances like sugar, prepackaged foods, sodium that are addicting. Like there's so much truth in that Lay's potato chip slogan, you can't eat just one, you're damn straight. So when people tell me I must have lost weight because I have willpower, like I'm some godlike being or saint, I quickly and try to nicely crush that right away by saying, no, y'all, I could eat a whole dobosh cake and then eat another dobosh cake, especially if the first dobosh cake was only chocolate, because then the second dobosh cake would have to be lemon so I could have both flavors or vice versa. I just try to completely avoid foods that have chemicals that trigger my willpower or lack of willpower response. And I try to not feed into beating myself up when I have moments that are quote unquote lack of willpower, because that makes me feel like I have no power. Whew. All right. I try to say something like that. Maybe not quite as enlightened or quite as lengthy. We all know I'm not a doctor and that I don't yet play one on TV. But I can say this. I would like to hope that we wouldn't tell someone who is addicted, and we shouldn't tell someone who is addicted to alcohol or drugs, oh, you just don't have willpower, because we know it isn't quite that simple. Addiction is much more complicated than a switch you could turn on and off with willpower. We have all told ourselves that willpower, and specifically when it comes to food and quote unquote bad food that we've labeled as bad, it is a switch that we could just turn on or off like a magic wand. Nope. Food is also an addiction. And y'all, it's not just my opinion or what I feel or what I've experienced. There are plenty of articles, stories, medical backed facts, if you like all that stuff, that food is addictive. And there's a lot of articles that I've been reading specifically for this episode on willpower itself. And y'all, as I keep talking about willpower, I'm thinking more and more about that, that part in the movie Bruce Almighty when Jim Carrey gets the powers and that song, I've got the power, starts blasting away. Y'all remember that? Okay, so I'm going to break down some articles I read and researched when I knew I wanted to tell a lot of tales about my feelings on willpower and something that I've noticed over my own journey over the past couple years. So first off, there's an article in Medium. And my main draw from that article is that willpower waxes and wanes. Amen, Medium. What did I just say a little while ago? And we can't rely on something that's not reliable. Medium says don't rely on willpower, rely on a system. So that's something I put into place when I was changing my health story and consequently losing weight. My system started off with adding certain rules, and I adapted the rules and I twerked the rules and I twerked myself a little bit too. My system was this. My first system was this. Cut out juices, added sugar, like heavy added sugar things, and limit anything, white bread, white rice, white pasta, white potatoes. This was partially to lose weight. It's because I had a lot of weight that needed to be taken off because it was making my polycystic ovarian syndrome symptoms of irregular periods, facial hair, uncontrolled cholesterol levels much, much, much worse. It was wreaking havoc on my system. And I've avoided these kinds of foods for nearly 2 decades, except for the white potatoes. It's that quarter Irish in me that I can't, and I won't stop eating white potatoes. But they're not a food that has a chemical that's going to make me want to keep eating and eating like a baked potato. You're not going to say, oh my God, I had 7 baked potatoes. I have no willpower. But then there are fart noise, French fries. So here's my system for French fries. And it's so whack. I only allow myself to be exposed to French fries once a week, if possible. And if it's a French fry day, then I try to balance the other meals of the day with vegetables or like healthy grains, like my crazy steel-cut oat hemp seed concoction and lean protein. Y'all, because I just love my French fries, but I'm terrified of ketchup. That's a whole other story. So my system to avoid French fries completely could be to feel guilty, punish myself, squirt yucky ketchup all over the French fries, get grossed out by that massacre bloody ketchup scene, and waste a perfectly good plate of French fries. But no, my system that I've adapted about eating French fries is like having a little bit of balance and trying to consequently at the same time, like, avoid the crazy talk. I don't know if I should have used the word consequently there. I don't think that quite fit in. Anyway, my brain is still settling in. The omega-3s are still gelling for the morning. And y'all, word of advice, don't share a plate of French fries with Harry, my boyfriend, because like, if you're like me, you'll just keep eating and eating. And Harry will assume that you, meaning me, are starving, which I'm usually not starving. It's just the salt of the French fries getting to my taste buds and my brain, making me want more. I'm not starving, but Harry stops eating and he just like lets me eat all the French fries so that I can finish them. I'm like, no, keep eating with me. That's the fun of it. It's a whole thing. And there's a whole cycle for willpower. And y'all tell me if y'all's is similar. We will continue to use French fries, or as the French say, pommes frites, as an example, because clearly French fries are my kryptonite. So go to a restaurant, and with French fries, I'm usually not craving them. I don't crave them like I do chocolate or dough-bosh cake until I actually see them right in front of me, or until I maybe see that they're offered on the menu, or somebody else at the restaurant just got some French fries. I personally order something sensible, like grilled chicken with some vegetable side. I usually do at a restaurant. But Howie, my boyfriend Howie, asks me if he gets some fries with his will I share. I think many of my peeps can relate to this when your friend or your partner or your family member or your frenemy does this as well, right? So the food arrives at the table and you tell yourself you're just going to have a couple fries. You reach for the other person's plate. Oh, can I have a fry? Oh, yeah, you already discussed that you're going to have a fry, but you make it polite. It's not your plate. So eating the French fry doesn't really count, right? But like let's hold the phone here. Do you hear all this negative talk that has been going on? We haven't mentioned willpower, but we've danced around it a little bit. And I must mention, y'all, I am avoiding French fries, not because I'm an obsessive calorie counter, and I don't condone that. We will have a whole episode where I tell tales about calorie counting, but I don't condone the types of oils used to fry anything, and I don't condone a lot of added salt, and that's because high blood pressure and high cholesterol run in my family, and I'm trying to live my best life right now without any meds, and therefore I choose to be extra diligent using food as my medicine. I'm like, French fries are definitely not medicine. Maybe they're medicine for the soul. That's a whole other subject, guys. But today, I have now made the choice to have some French fries. But once I eat once or two, those taste buds are triggered. I'm pointing to them for friends who watch the video. It's kind of like the taste buds are right there. Making a weird gesture with my hand. The salt, right? The gates are unleashed. And it's not because I or you or any of us are shitty, crappy people with no self-control or lack of willpower. It's because salty and sweet foods are addictive. And quite simply because that shit is good. If it's a good fry. I'm more of like what I call a roper-doper, kind of like soft and limp fry type of person than a hard fry person. Y'all, fries. We are talking about French fries here. Okay, y'all get my point. Back on track. But I am working to stop the cycle of beating myself up. Do y'all hear all the thoughts that go into the head for eating one French fry? I'm talking about it right now, but many of us all do it. Those of us who have poor self-talk, low quality self-talk when it comes to food. I don't eat the fry. I'm working on not eating the fry and saying, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that. I have gotten a lot better about that. So kudos. And kudos to any of y'all who are getting better. Maybe we're not there yet, but we're getting better. I just say instead, okay, cool. Those fries were damn good, but tonight it's dinner and a salad. For dinner, it's salad and salmon. Or if I'm eating fries at dinner, which as we know, I don't really eat like dinner, then I make sure what I eat the next morning will be a healthier balance. What I eat the next day. It's always like getting back on track. Because if I am knocking myself out over eating the French fries, like 90% of the plate of French fries, because Harry only had 10%, saying, I don't have willpower. Oh, I ate those French fries. That gives me no power at all. It's more empowering to say, I ate the fries. They were damn good. And tomorrow or later on tonight, I will have a green juice and salmon. All right, there's another article from the blog, Too Much on Her Plate. And they say in there to pay attention to when and why you overeat. And it's most likely not because you're weak or lazy or all the other things we tell ourselves and imply to our psyche when we say we have no willpower. I've noticed sometimes when I eat just to be eating and not even when I'm tempted by one particular food, it's because I am overwhelmed or annoyed or stressed or sad or hungry for something I'm not getting emotionally in that moment. And over the past many years, and especially over the past several months, as I've been sitting and planning this particular podcast, because I've been wanting to talk about willpower for a while, I feel like I've really had to notice that. There's another article in Vox that equates willpower to a restraint. And I could so relate to that. I wonder if all y'all can too, because I'm definitely my mom and my dad's daughter. So if you tell me I can't have or can't do something, I'm going to rebel and try to do it. Or in this case, eat it. Another secret that isn't so secret anymore is that labeling anything off limits when you're working on a lifestyle change is a major no-no, because It's like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and with that damn snake and that apple. But apples aren't a food we really gorge on, word. I mean, apple pie, maybe. Apple cider donuts in the fall, maybe. Hashtag basic. But there's certain foods we beast on because they are made that way. There are chemicals in them that are made that way. There are experiences we just keep wanting and wanting and wanting, and it crushes down our willpower. But things like apples, broccoli, lemons, spinach, onions, those aren't the foods we gorge on. Well, onions, unless you're my boyfriend Harry, different subject. Are y'all feeling me? So another media outlet that has a really interesting article on willpower is Psychology Today. And in a nutshell, they say that exerting willpower when faced with temptation is simply exhausting. Mind blown. Okay, here's the deal. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or a psychologist or a PhD to say that. Yes, I know the exhaustion of making a healthier life. But then there's that precipice when it stops being exhausting and it starts being, invigorating. Shall I say that? No, it's exhausting because you're listening to the negative voices in your head when you're trying to do something positive for yourself. But I couldn't agree more with Psychology Today, which is why they're saying to avoid the temptation altogether. And that's what I talked about before, right? Like, don't go walking down the boardwalk, 7 days a week. I mean, God, I wish I could walk down a boardwalk, Asbury Park 7 days a week and be tempted by the smell of French fries. No, it's not always possible to avoid temptation, right? And you're like, how is it not possible to avoid temptation? Just stay away from it. But in my line of work, I got 3 words for you: craft food services. And if you aren't in the TV film biz, I'll give you a baby, shortened definition of craft food services, aka crafty. It's like the area, or like the table, if you're lucky, the whole truck with all the feeds, the variety of feeds, mostly prepackaged. But if you're lucky, there's some wonderful, healthy, fresh options, always the crudité with the hummus. And if you're not lucky, usually it's prepackaged crappy options, and those don't even tempt me anymore. Sorry, they're not sponsoring it. I don't think they ever will, but Chips Ahoy, I could have a stare down with those all day and not give into it at all because I've blocked that part of my brain. But it was freshly baked cookies. We're telling other tales. But y'all, if you're lucky and unlucky, perhaps at the same time, you will be tempted with something. I will be tempted with something as glorious as Kirkland chocolate-covered almonds. Those are my other kryptonite. I was on a set. We always say on set. So pretentious, right? I was on set a couple of weeks ago, and a cop was rolling over to Crafty. Classic of him. So classic, you little officer. And we both reached for the Kirkland chocolate-covered almonds at the same time. And I get a cup, and I put 15 in it. Yes, 15, because I know the added sugar content, and I've also been awake at 5 a.m. every day that particular week, and I know too much added sugar will not be good for my polycystic ovarian syndrome symptoms, my anxiety, etc. So the police officer goes, "Man, I could eat the whole container. How can you only eat that many?" And I say to him, "Well, officer, you haven't seen what's in my car." And I don't know if that was the best response to a cop, but I was kind of trying to make a joke. I was trying to make him not feel bad about what he's implying as his lack of willpower and hence his weakness. Maybe I should have had a conversation with the officer about diet culture and asked him to listen to this here podcast. And I could have had Nassau County's finest as one of our fellow listeners, y'all. Anyways, at this point, the point is, even those who seem to be the toughest of the tough still have this negative, antiquated voice when they feel they don't have willpower. But yet we all continue to do it. We will always continue to eat. We will always continue to be tempted. We will always continue to give in to temptation, but we shouldn't have to keep continuing beating ourselves up for it. I say the best way to talk to that negative voice is say, I shouldn't do this because it's been deemed bad. for me versus how will this make me feel physically if I keep eating it? How will it make me feel over the next few long, grueling days at work? How do I want to feel tomorrow? How do I want to feel 10 years from now? Oh, screw it. Give me 3 more Kirkland chocolate-covered almonds, but save me some celery sticks for later. Y'all. With willpower, it's not just with food, but it can also be, as we know, with mental distractions. I know y'all feel me on this. Also in Psychology Today, they mention phones and like devices pinging. We are programmed like robots to answer those pings, and willpower comes into play with that as well. But I argue in some cases, in some job fields or with family or friend or family emergencies, we need to check the phone ping. But there's like less beating ourselves up or even acknowledging that we have no willpower when it comes to checking our phone notifications like robots than there is with the constant reminder that we're beating ourselves up for eating like 3 cups of trail mix in one sitting. And y'all, don't they say doing the same thing over and over again but expecting different results is the definition of insanity? Well, then my question, y'all, is why do we keep eating and then beating ourselves up and expect to have a happy, healthy life when we're subconsciously or maybe consciously having such rotten conversations with ourselves? Y'all, a couple of these articles discuss a survey conducted of 159 students at McGill University in Canada, which showed that willpower isn't a muscle that gets better the more you resist temptation. Listen to that again. Willpower is not a muscle that gets better the more you resist temptation. Amen to that as well. I can agree with that wholeheartedly, because that's why I've yo-yoed so much when I first approached diet and exercise from my must do it because I should be skinny and I should be perfect and I should fit in, pun intended, type of mindset. It's only when we approach our why, wanting to feel healthy, wanting to not poop in our pants or feel like crap the next day, that we can try to muster up willpower, or rather just taking some power to treat ourselves a little bit nicer. When we do beast and we keep beating ourselves up for having no willpower, how is that going to help us get better the next time? It won't. We'll just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. Also, in one of the articles, they say that people who are better at self-control actually like eating healthy and exercising. Well, y'all, I like eating healthy and I like exercising too. I do. I have made myself like these things. It's become habit. I have a whole episode that I tell tales about called I Like to Move It, where I talk about exercising as being a privilege, not a punishment. But while I like eating healthy and exercising, I also like my French fries. Hold the ketchup. And that's okay. My negative voice isn't going to yell at my non-existent willpower because that's what we're supposed to do. Oh, I have no willpower. Oh, or it's kind of that same thing. Oh, I just ate so much. I have no willpower. Or like when somebody says, oh, like a fellow, usually it happens with female identifying people. Oh, my thighs are so fat. And somebody else will say, yeah, I got like some neck sag here. Let's not give in to that talk. It's so powerful, but there's so much more power in saying, stop. I had a friend who I went to high school with, and I loved him. He would say, stop right now. Stop right now. Sorry, microphone. I just hit the microphone. But so when those voices come up, oh, I have no willpower, just say, stop right now. It's all about changing the perspective of what we view as bad, quote unquote. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, I can't stop eating these fries, I have no willpower, let's retrain it to be, okay, let's dump the proverbial ketchup on these French fries right now. I've had enough, especially if I want to sleep well, have enough energy to exercise, and have a good poop later. I'm stopping because I'm focusing on the powerful, the positive aspect of it. That's where the power lies. I don't know where willpower lies, or sleeps, or stays dormant, because I often feel like willpower is dormant and comes up maybe once in a blue moon, and we're wasting our times trying to muster up something that doesn't always or doesn't hardly ever want to cooperate. So let's work on this, y'all. Finding balance with the food we're taking in, and stop the negative talk about lacking willpower, because that's where our power is. And power is always going to win over willpower. Thanks so much for listening, y'all. It is my hope to inspire, uplift, and entertain you with this Who's Dat Fat Girl podcast. So, if you're hungry for more, you can book me to speak or perform my solo show that inspired this podcast, Fat Girl Costumes, written by yours truly and directed by Brian Lady at your virtual or in-person event. Please visit brookehoover.com/fluffybuttproductions or email me at contactbrookhoover@gmail.com for more info. And let's follow each other on Instagram. I'm at Brooke Hoover, and the O's in my name are not the letter O, they're zeros. Not because I want to be a size 0, but because I guess I'm just so clever with my late 90s Yahoo self. And if you like this podcast, which I really hope you do, please give me a 5-star rating and write a review on Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, share this with your friends, family, and other people you may know who are as fat as we are. That's fat with a PH.